Welcome back to the Spartan Canada podcast. I am here tonight with Ashley Squire-Smith, and we are going to get into a great conversation about all things Spartan. Ashley has been a Spartan for quite a bit of time. He has a few different roles in Spartan, like SGX coach, as well as Krypteia. Hopefully I said that right, but we'll get you to clarify that.
Yeah,
So very diverse in Spartan. Lots of things that we can find out tonight. Super excited. Welcome, Ashley. How are you?
good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Excellent.
It's an honor to be here.
Oh, that's great. It's great to hear and talk to racers that have been doing Spartans for a bit of time. We've got a lot of new racers, which is amazing. It grows our sport. We've got new elites, new beginners, but it's great to hear from people like you. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how you started with Spartan. When was your first race?
So, I'm into 10 years now as a Spartan racer. My first race was in 2014 from Macomb. I found out about it. I didn't, it was back when there wasn't really a ton of information out there necessarily about Spartan, and found out about that from a colleague and friend. And it sounded interesting, so I thought, okay, why not? I'll sign up and go for it and check it out. Like a lot of folks, I was hooked. It was both really, really challenging and really, really enjoyable all at the same time. And for walking away from that experience, being like, wow, it was something totally different than anything I'd ever done before as an athlete, which I appreciated. A new set of challenges.
Mhm.
Um, and even though it was really difficult, you got your bumps and your bruises and you're covered in mud and all these things, you're also like great feeling of accomplishment and you're kind of ready for the next one. And so that really did start me on this journey, which takes me all the way to today, right? There's been a lot in between now and then, but
Yeah. And you like 2015 Spartan was quite a lot different back then. It was a bit of
yeah,
the Wild West. The rules weren't kind of set in stone. I feel like it's gotten very more streamlined. Things have happened, but how do you feel about the races now? Are they still great in comparison, or um, what would you love to see more of out there?
that's a good question. Yeah, absolutely. It's much different today than it was then. I think, this was when I started 2014, 2015. Super, was more than 10K. I think it was 13. And, you might get the odd one that was 14 or 15. But I think it's been good that they've standardized things a little bit more. Sprint, if you sign up for sprint, you're getting a 5K. Super, you're getting 10. The beast, you're getting 21. I think that there's value in that system. It helps people understand what they're signing up for a little bit and helps them progress from one event to
Yeah.
the next, which is something that I appreciated as well on my own journey. Starting out with a sprint, but after having that experience, you feel more confident. Okay, I'm gonna prepare and go out for super, and then kind of climbing that ladder and going down that journey. So I think that's good that they've standardized that stuff a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally
And
agree with you on that, especially like for an athlete standpoint. And also, a lot of people really, even though you can't know what you're getting into for until you do it, it's nice to
no,
kind
it's
of
hard.
know and at least go, okay, I can at least walk 5K, I'm in. Whereas before it was
Yeah,
like show up and see what happens. Now you're a teacher, a school teacher. So how did you kind of translate your new journey into working with your students? Because I believe you do you work in athletics at school too?
I do. So I'm a high school health and physical education teacher. So this is right up my alley.
Hmm.
And even though my job as a phys ed teacher is completely separate from my life as a Spartan racer, there's
Absolutely.
a huge degree of carryover, right? The lessons that I have learned um, preparing for and completing various Spartan events are just as valuable to, I think, any human being out there, and certainly young folks, developing a sense of who they are and who they want to be in the world, and developing their character and habits that will ultimately serve them for life. So um, I try to, in my role as a phys ed teacher, expose students to a wide array of movements and challenges so they can appreciate different skills and hopefully build a nice broad foundation that will allow them to be successful throughout the course of their life in many different endeavors.
Yeah,
Hopefully
absolutely.
help them,
And as an
build healthy habits. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
for
ahead.
sure. And just building the resilience I found, because I also am a coach as well, not in schools, but well, in schools, but not as a teacher. And I found that it almost gave me the confidence to be like, okay, this method is a correct method. You can try to push people out of their comfort zones. You don't have to baby people. And you're right, there are other people who agree with you in that way. So I feel like that's a great way in the schools. Do you coach any sports at school?
Yeah, I different times I've been involved with different sports. I just try to support as much as possible things running, so students have opportunities. But generally speaking, I'm involved with our football program, and also recently, whether it's the weight room and fitness or powerlifting, which is a relatively new sport for high schools in our area. But generally speaking, I'm trying to be involved in something. Yeah.
Hmm. And even just being involved in kind of what's going on in athletics as well. I think it's neat too to see teachers doing different things with students. I know when I was a kid, this is going to hugely date me, but it was basically just sports. So if you weren't into the sport, then there wasn't really room for you necessarily. And now that's just so evolved. And I feel like that Spartan is a great way to integrate that for students who may not ever be on a team or don't have the desire to do that kind of thing. So that's excellent. And how long have you been an SGX coach then?
Um, so I took the SGX certification in 2019. So I guess it's going on 4 years now, five
Mhm.
years. That was a great course. I do recommend that to anyone. And like you say, there's a lot of value in these types of things that apply to lots of different folks, just certain racers. But yeah, that was a great course. I really enjoyed that. And again, putting yourself out there, getting outside your comfort zone for me, was taking something that I again didn't know a ton about, but looked interesting and was an opportunity for me to learn, right, and grow
Mhm.
and develop understanding of this type of training and this world a little bit more. And who knows where I can bring that back and carry that back to, right?
Mhm.
And so I went to the certification, learned a lot, was, talking to all those like-minded people that were also there. And that was actually, if I trace it back, that was where I met the director of Spartan Canada at that time and first learned about hurricane heat and Krypteias. And
Yes.
so it's funny how these things sort of work out.
And the community is quite small, even though we have see thousands of racers at our Canadian events. It's very, very small once you start becoming involved. So that's really interesting. So let's bridge right into that. So is it Krypteia or Krypteia? I've heard it all over. Let's settle it right now. What is it, and how do you say the word?
Yeah, so it's a very ancient word, and it's spelled the Teia. And so you look at that, and depending, like a lot of names, some people say it one way, some people say it another way, um, but it's Krypteia,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's
Okay,
there is a bit
so
of mystery around that,
there
and
is so much mystery about it. And so we're talking hurricane heats for anybody who's listening. I know there is, like you just said, there's a lot of mystery and there's a lot of interest in it. I know it was massive at Calabogie last year. It sold out
yeah.
like twice. They added you as a second person. I think that's how it went. You can explain that,
Yeah,
but
Brimacombe was
yeah.
80. I think we were actually just over 80.
Hmm.
That was
So
awesome, right?
what is a hurricane? And without telling me what a hurricane heat is, because you're not supposed to talk about hurricane heats.
I
But
know,
why should I
right?
sign up for that? And what is it?
Yeah, great question. And so a hurricane heat was something that was originally put on by Joe DeSena after Irene years ago that unfortunately caused a lot of devastation and over the course of a race weekend canceled a lot of events, but there were still a lot of folks in the Spartan community who had signed up for these races and were eager to do something. And so Joe apparently brought a group out on course and they did a bunch of different challenges over the next several hours. And it was such a life-changing moment for many of those people that they realized the power of doing some alternative challenges even within the sort of Spartan framework, if you will. So there was value in that. That's been something that has been around um, for a little while now, several years in Canada. It's gaining popularity. So absolutely, like you say, last year was hugely popular. We sold out the Brimacombe event, and we're hoping to do the same this year. Absolutely. We also have 4-hour hurricane heats on the schedule for Red Deer, Alberta, in July, and a 12-hour in Calbogie.
Oh,
So a
nice.
hurricane heat, if you're not really familiar, is an alternative challenge. We were just talking about standardizing races, right? So a sprint now is 5K and it comprises of 20 obstacles. And if you look, you're going to find out all the information you want to know, the elevation gain, on the course and which obstacles, et cetera, et cetera. And that's
Mhm.
great. That helps you plan and prepare and get ready to be successful on the day. A hurricane heat takes a different approach. And so hurricane heat is led by someone called a Krypteia, right? And they are there to support you as an individual, but also to lead you and all of the others that are there, all the other students that are there through a variety of challenges. And these challenges are going to last either 4 hours or 12 hours or potentially 24 hours. And so those are the sort of standard formats, if you will, of hurricane. Now, each one is unique. So
Mhm.
if you did the 4-hour event last year at Brimacombe, that's awesome, but it's going to be completely different this year. And
Yeah.
so having that as an unknown is part of the value of the hurricane heat. You
Hmm.
know it's 4 hours. The day that it's running, no time. Other than that, it's a mystery, right? What you're going to be asked to do. And so there's a degree of um, mental challenge, that goes along with that. And because these aren't just individual challenges, they're also team based.
Hmm.
It's going to take everyone together to be successful.
That kind of translates from your school background almost, because I'm sure part of your journey as a teacher is always trying to get students to come together and be a community rather than be against each other, because that would be a big thing. So that's interesting. I think the school teacher in you would be a very good asset to that as well. And also, you're not going to take anybody's BS either, because there's a lot of that too. I know that there are, well, what I've heard, I'll tell you the rumors, I'm sure you've heard. Um, there are, you don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be really hard, and don't ask any questions or there might be more burpees.
Yeah, it's the no questions thing is interesting. Again, you want to work together with everyone that you have there. And that's going to probably include a few people who've maybe been down this road before,
Mhm.
or maybe who think differently than you. And so using the resources that you have available and using your team, which, like you say, is a lot like life.
Mhm.
Whether it's a school team or class, coworkers, families, whomever, communities, there's a lot of value in using the team and building those skills.
Yeah, and
Don't just go.
I feel like people who have done hurricane heats together, they still talk to each other. So whether they never do it again, they still follow each other and comment on each other's posts. I hear all the time about racers who met like their favorite racing person through a hurricane heat. So I think if you're looking to meet some like-minded people, that would be a really great one too. Yeah, and
Absolutely.
I feel like 4 hours, that's a good entry point.
Yeah, the 4 hour hurricane heat is designed for everyone. So, like you said, with the Spartan sprint, if you had to, you could just walk that, right?
Hmm.
Like you're gonna survive. It's gonna end. You'll make it, right? You just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and really, it's the same idea with the 4 hour hurricane heat. Hours isn't nothing, right? It's still 4 hours. It's a commitment. It's gonna be hard, but you can do it, right? Anyone can do it. The 12-hour, the 24-hour, the death race, the agoge, some of these more advanced events, that's going to take some preparation, some training, right? A little bit more research and all that. But the 4 hour event, that's for everyone. So I do want to see everyone out to those events, Macomb, Red Deer, Calabogie, ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that might have convinced me to jump in there. I usually like to do
Yeah, you're
the
coming.
because I saw it last year and I remember thinking, why didn't I sign up for this? I was volunteering, so that was fun, and watching you guys,
Yeah,
it was awesome. It looked amazing, but I think because I try to do everything, also in the weekend. So, but now I feel like I might just add that. I mean, it's 4 hours. It's gonna hurt, but I can get through 4 hours.
everything ends. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
absolutely do it. And you're going to be so
and
happy that you did. And like
yeah.
you say, like the people that you meet and the experience that you have is very powerful.
Mm.
And I think that you would find, like anyone would find, that you'd be so glad you did it.
Absolutely. And the team building part, I think that building communities and stuff right now is something that we need to all look into and work on, because I think the world needs more resilient people who are coming together to just push themselves. Even if that is the lowest of the low to the highest elite racer, you're all doing something together, as well. Now, talking about elite racers, I know, and we'll come back to the hurricane heat because I'm sure there's
Sure.
other things that I'll forget, but you have done some elite racing with Spartan. Tell me a little bit about that, because you're a bit of a decorated Spartan racer, I would say. Some podiums there, and you're also into Deka. So let's just start with Spartan. When did you decide to do some of the competitive races with Spartan?
So I sort of followed um, the Spartan trail, if you will, in terms of starting with a 5K sprint, and enjoyed that experience, and so came back and decided, hey, I'm going to do this again, but maybe try and one up that and do the super, and then eventually beast, and eventually on to ultras. And that's been an awesome journey. I was fortunate to make the podium in Tremblant in 2022 for the ultra, but to be perfectly fair, I think that was probably a lot more about survival than speed, because that was a particularly grueling event with crazy weather and whatnot.
But that's a
But
thing. That's a thing. If you're the last person standing, that's a feat in itself. So,
yeah, yeah. Um, so we enjoyed a little bit of success with some Spartan racing. Um, but more recently with Deka,
hmm.
um, have been fortunate to find some success there. So my wife actually bought me my first Deka Strong entry as like a birthday present,
Oh, that's
because I
nice.
like to do new things every few years. I'm learning, again, it's a new challenge and whatnot, and I'd heard through this podcast, a website and whatnot, and community about this thing. What is this thing? And so to explore that, oh, there's going to be an event fairly close to us, so that would be awesome. So she signed me up, sure enough, go do it, and again, just like any other Spartan event, an amazing community. They're very supportive,
Hmm.
people that just want you to be successful, right? And are willing to help you, willing to give you tips, or whatever it is. And so I was really fortunate to have a great experience with Deka. three, and after doing one, signing up for the next one, getting a little bit better, signing up for the next one, getting a little bit better, right? Learning and growing, and ultimately qualifying and competing at the 2023
Which one did you do? The strong? Sorry, it cut out there a little bit, but was it the strong that you did?
It was the strong, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that one I find the hardest because there's no running in it. So
Yeah, you know what? am definitely curious to try a mile and, fit if the opportunity presents itself in Canada. But yeah, there's it's pretty tough no matter what, because even if there's a break to run, I think that probably just push yourself anyway,
yeah,
right?
I mean, I say that, but it hurts. It either hurts for 15 to 25 minutes or it hurts for 30 to 50 minutes. It it just depends. Still hurts.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
so let's go back to that hurricane heat. Just for a little bit here because we've got our 4 hours, then it goes 12 hours, and that's what we have in Canada, right?
correct.
And then
Yeah,
it
so there's
moves on to 24. And can you tell us some more about that and maybe lead it into the death race? Because that's another one that we don't see in Canada, but it exists. So,
yeah, so right now there are two death races. There's typically um, and I hope I'm not misspeaking here, but there's been a summer death race and a winter death race. These occur only in the United States, although it's my understanding that at some point in the future they may occur elsewhere in the world. Um, I have never done a death race. I haven't been a Krypteia at a death race. I would love that experience, and
mhm.
just to be again around those like-minded people that are really pushing the boundaries of their comfort zones. I think that would be really, really inspiring. But much like the sprint to super to beast to ultra, etc., progression, there's the same sort of progression with hurricane heats. So
Mhm.
you can certainly start out with a 4 hour and then move on to a 12 hour, which is significantly more challenging, but again, doable. 24 hour. Unfortunately, there are no 24-hour events in Canada this year, but potentially in the future, and certainly if 4 hour events and 12-hour event this year at Calabogie is well attended, that certainly sends the right message to Spartan Canada and HQ that racers and the community want to see growth in these areas and make it more likely to be on the calendar for 2025 or beyond.
Awesome. So we just have to get everybody to sell it out again
That's right.
in
That's
order
right.
to get more
Absolutely.
of the events. It's great because it just gives us more things to do if you want to be part of the Spartan community as well. So then you've done your 4 hour,
Exactly.
you're on to your 12 hour, and you did mention that maybe a little bit more training should go into that. Also, what is the time frame of this 12 hour? Is it in the day? Is it in the night?
So again, each event can be different. You mentioned, seeing the 4 hour at Macomb. So traditionally, events go at night, just because again, presents an interesting challenge. Maybe a little bit more to manage as well, whether physically or mentally, when you're just dealing with something by headlamp light or whatever it may be, completely in the dark. Who knows? But more recently, we've started moving some events earlier in the day so that they are more visible to racers, and so
Hmm.
more people are exposed and can learn about the events. And just because so many folks might be interested to try it and would really benefit from it, right? In the Spartan community that have maybe done a sprint before and are like, oh, what's that next challenge going to be? And so we've had a lot of success with that, whether it's folks just kind of coming out and coming across it for the first time,
Hmm.
or deciding, hey, I'm coming up for the weekend to do these events. I'll be there. Why not jump in, right? And making it work.
Yeah, that's kind
So
of
they're
my
not
MO.
exclusively during the day or night, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah, so it could be day, it could be night. What is Bray McCombs this year? Has that been announced or is that classified information?
I don't think it's finalized yet exactly what time it's going to go off, but generally speaking, the protocol is this. So once we finish this podcast, you're going to jump on race.ca and you're going to go in and you're going to sign up for your 4-hour hurricane heat. And then it'll give you a little bit of information there on the website as you're signing up.
Hmm?
But a week out from the event, or thereabouts, you get an email from Krypteia telling you specifically what it is you need to bring and where and when you need to show up.
Okay.
So somewhere on the race course, we'll give you some direction as to where to meet us. We begin the event from there.
Okay, I kind of like this. I
Yeah,
know so
absolutely.
I know that's hard for some people to get out of that comfort zone though. So I think that is a great thing. If you struggle with not having A to B to C to Z all lined up
All
and
the
ready to go,
information.
then probably you should go and do a hurricane heat.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like, we're fortunate to live in an age where we have all the information we could probably ever want at our fingertips
Hmm.
24/7. And you don't necessarily have to stress about a lot. There's food can be delivered to us and, whatever, but things like this, choosing the unknown and choosing a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of stress, choosing to have to figure things out is ultimately really, really powerful. And I think that's part of the reason why you see so many people coming back again and again to do events or to stay really connected within the community and folks that they have, gone through these challenges, these events with.
Yeah, absolutely. You hear people who do them usually repeat them. So it's definitely a little group that does it. So everyone that I talked to from last year seems to be going to go and do it again this year. So I mean, if everybody's going to do it, I guess I should too. I
Yeah,
feel
coming.
convinced. And now I'm going to do exactly what you said, go to Spartan Race and do all that stuff and sign myself up tonight, and then
Right
I'll
on.
see you in the spring. So what is next for your racing career? Are you going to continue to do ultras or because it sounds like you're kind of an ultra person. Is that correct?
Yeah, I personally love the challenge. I love anything that's going to challenge me and put me at the boundary of my comfort zone. Right? And
Mm-hmm.
for me right now, or in the last several years, ultras have done that. There's a lot of things that you need to kind of micromanage to survive an ultra.
Mm-hmm.
Being on course for 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever it works out to be, there's a lot of things that you need to overcome. And so
Yes.
I've found a lot of value in that personally and would definitely go back and do it
Mm-hmm.
again. Um, but I'm also really enjoying the sort of opposite end of the spectrum, which is the Deka journey, Deka Strong, which you're taking going from 14 hours to, like you say, like 20 minutes or less, whatever it ends up being. And so I'm enjoying the intensity and the challenge of that. And so,
Yeah, it's a whole different thing in the short races as compared to the long. And even with Spartans too. I actually personally find the sprints really, really, I'd say more painful because it's shorter, but you're going so much harder if you are doing it competitively. And I find the ultra is just okay, your goal is just to put one foot in front of the other. You got this
keep
kind of
climbing.
thing, not like
Yeah.
there's nobody in the back of my brain going, okay, you got to just push this hill a little bit faster, it's, you're just going to get up the hill. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I guess it's picking your poison, what
That's right.
what works for you. I'm probably more built for ultras as well too, for the same reason. It's just like, let's see what's going to happen today. Except
Yeah.
with preparedness, that is a
Yeah.
huge thing that you mentioned. That I think we should highlight that big time. If you're doing an ultra, do your best to prepare yourself for your ultra. So, what
Yeah.
is
Join the
your?
community
Oh,
Facebook
oh,
pages,
I did
like
that.
talk to everybody,
Hmm.
figure out what they're putting in their transition bin. What are they
Yeah,
wearing on their feet? Like,
exactly, because I got so many tips leading up to that that I actually did at transitions and like I had an extra whole set of clothing to put on, which I just got to choose whether I ended up changing shoes and stuff. And I wouldn't have thought to do
Yeah,
that because I run out in the rain like any Canadian does all the
yeah,
time. And I can run for 4 or 5 hours out in the rain, fine. But 13 hours up and down a hill is a whole different ball game. And it's nice to just put on dry shoes, even if it's for 5 minutes.
yeah, right. And stuff breaks. That's the other
Hmm.
thing. Like you have to be ready because stuff breaks all the time. You're not only pushing yourself to the edge of your comfort zone, you're often pushing equipment to the edge of
Yeah.
the comfort zone, like
So,
its capabilities. So yeah,
and having extras too, like we were just talking to someone last week, who it was Chris, and he did the ultra and he lost his water bottle like in the first part of it. And it just was, that was it, like those little things
yeah,
set you off. And so lots of mental component to it. That totally translates to hurricane heats, in my opinion. And also, I think just pushing yourself hard in a hurricane heat translates into Deca too. So I think if you've got that mindset, you could try any of the Spartan brand events and enjoy pushing to your comfort zone. And there's so many ways you can do
absolutely.
it. You can do it competitively, you can do it for fun, there's just, oh, you can try to
Yeah,
see how many. You can do in a weekend.
yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
yeah, you get to choose that. So I find that's what's interesting. Super cool that you are doing all this and then also, using that in the school, bringing the same mindset. Have any of your kids at school, do they know what you do? Do they think that's cool or are they like, whatever?
Um, I to be honest, I don't talk about it a lot. Um, if um, someone wants to ask me what's going on and maybe badger me enough, I might divulge something, but it's not actually something I talk about a lot, like my own personal experiences. But like I did say, it is something that I value in my teaching, and I have had students go out and do obstacle course events, and certainly
Awesome.
I do promote them getting active in the community, right? And so, especially as spring comes along and everything starts opening up, and you kind of get into event season, I do
Hmm.
post that to say, hey, there's all these opportunities in the community to do all these different things. And certainly that includes obstacle course racing, right? And getting out there and using their movement skills, doing it socially, signing up with a friend or a family member,
Yeah.
getting uncomfortable, setting a goal, doing all the things, right? There are definitely opportunities to do that.
Yeah, and I love that it gives the opportunity, like we were saying, to people. Like you can literally just walk and try out the things and do your best. It doesn't have to be about going your fastest. It's just about trying something new, doing something physical, meeting people, being outside. There's so many good reasons.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Like everyone is an athlete. Every person is an athlete. And
Hmm.
so you need to think that way and treat yourself that way. And create the lowest barrier to entry possible, right? You
Hmm.
don't have to be an elite athlete to just start. That's,
Yeah, that's a great message, and especially to go into schools. That's an amazing message, and I hope that there are lots more teachers sending that message. It's changed a lot, that's for sure. Because, like we said before, it used to be, you were either the fastest runner or you weren't running, and now it's like, well, go do a fun run or do this or. So that is great to hear that that kind of thing is going on in the schools. I'm sure you contribute to an awesome community at your school as well. And I cannot wait to do this hurricane heat that I'm now signed up for.
you're signed up. Yeah, you're unofficially signed up right now. Yeah.
I did feel a little FOMO last year when I saw it happening. So I don't know why I haven't thought to do it yet, but here, this is my push. And I hope everybody listening, it can be your push as well to get into the hurricane. So finally, what would you say, what is your biggest sell to get just that person who's on the fence right now going, I don't know if I want to do it. What advice could you give them to get them to come out to this event?
Great question. I would say, when you look back on your life 10, 20, 50 years from now, you're probably going to be glad that you put yourself out there and challenge yourself as much as possible, as opposed to played it safe, right? Or hung out on the couch one more weekend, right? Or stayed
I
home.
love that. I love that. And we're going to wrap it there. For everybody listening, go out and look into the hurricane heats, even though you won't find anything. And you will see Ashley out there at our Canadian events. Thank you so much for doing this tonight. And I look forward to seeing what you do next and being in the hurricane heat.
Thanks for having me.